Hey there, Miss Kim here from Colorful Spirits Art Studio, and today we are going to be painting a tractor. So this is our drawing. These are the paints we'll be using. We'll be using watercolor paints. So you'll need your set. You'll need a bucket or a cup of water and probably some paper towels. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to drop a little bit of water on each of these paints to kind of activate them. Watercolor paints come dry, so I'm just going to kind of get these started and get them ready to use. Now, the thing about watercolor paints is that you use a lot of water. So you don't use a lot of paint, but you do use a lot of water. So we're going to, hopefully I'll be able to show you that. And I'll show you how we can mix some paint right on this tray here if we need an additional color. So let me get started here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to really get a lot of water in our blue paint here. And let me just make sure y'all can see that. Yep. And then I'm going to start working on our sky. So I'm going to keep adding water, and that's going to allow the paint to move on our paper. So the more water I add, the more it will flow. So I'm just going to kind of go around. Now the thing too with watercolors is it's fun to, you don't have to get every inch of it, of your paper. It's a different kind of paint, and it can be fun to leave some of it kind of white or leave some of it a lighter shade. It gives it that watercolory look. That's a technical term, watercolory. So we are going to keep working on our sky here. And you can even go back with a paper towel and take out some paint. Like if you wanted to have some kind of clouds floating around up there, you can do that with a paper towel. So I'm going to keep going on our sky here. I'm just going to keep bringing my blue, and you see how little paint I'm using. So this set of paint should last you for a few paintings. You know, you use it differently than you use acrylic paint. I teach a lot of kids, and they tend to want to scoop the paint up, and you don't need to do that with this. So, and then we're going to go right inside here because we can see the sky through our tractor window. So I'm going to keep bringing that down. And I can add a little bit more paint when I feel like I need it. But mainly it's a lot of water. And again, if we want to get a cloud or two in there, we can just pop on there with our paper towel. But you see how you get a very nice, interesting texture in the sky with this watercolor paint. Okay, we've got a little bit of sky peeking through here. That's a skinny area. I'm just wiggling my brush a little bit. So that will be our sky. So next, I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna grab some of this green, and I'm gonna do there are these kind of trees in the background. Trees or shrubs, I'm not sure what they are, but it's a little countryside or a farm, you know, it's a farm. Obviously there's a tractor here. So we are going to, and you could even change the shape of your trees. Actually, this one's being changed for me because sometimes with watercolor paints, if it's very wet, the paint will kind of bleed. but I actually kind of like the way that looks. I like that shape of that tree, so I'm gonna leave it. Okay, and then I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna do these. Again, we can see these right through the tractor window. So you can see I'm just kind of filling in those areas with my paint. And you can, you know, change the shapes of your trees if you like. So like this one, I can make it go up a little bit if I want. You can really do whatever you like. The drawing is a suggestion. If you want to make any changes to it, you are welcome to. Now for the grass, what I'd like to do is I'm going to take some of this green, the full green, and then I'm going to take some of this yellow and I'm going to mix it on the tray here. And I think I need a little more yellow. I want to make a very light green for this grass. So I'm just going back and see how I've got a different color green than I had the first time. It's much more yellow. And so I just want it to be different than my trees in the background. And I'm doing mainly horizontal strokes on this because it's, you know, it's a farm and, you know, chances are the tractor's going in rows, and so I'm kind of going, you know, in straight horizontal lines here. So I'm going to bring this light green grass way down here. And you can see I keep adding water. I keep doing more and more with the water. I'm getting a little green in my yellow, but that's okay. We can fix that. It's not the end of the world. And even if I get the colors a little bit different, it's okay because, you know, grass, when you look at it, the grass, it's not always one color. It's different shades of green and yellow, and it depends if the sun is hitting on it, and, you know, so it's kind of neat having these different shades of green in here. So once you get that area pretty well covered up, then we're going to go over to the other side. So I'm going to get more of my yellow and more of my green and more of my water. And now I'm going to go underneath here. And I kind of want it, you know, a little close to the color I had before, so I'm going to add some more yellow. And see, my paint's starting to get a little dry, so I want to add more water to my paint. And, you know, there are different brushes that you can use, but I'm using the one that came with the paint set. You know, it's not the best brush in the world, but you can see, you know, you can still work with it. So now I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do this little hill. And remember, I'm adding water because the water helps it to move on the paper. And then we've got more of the grass peeking through the tractor window here. And this is going to come all the way down here like we did on the sky, just a little wiggle. So that little hill is a little bit darker, and then we're going into the lighter one. So I'm going to keep making more of my lighter green. Keep bringing it down here. Got a little bit of that other color on there, but that's okay too. We might even put some pops of color, other colors in here later. because you know there are a lot of other colors in nature. If you really look out at the trees and the grass, you'll see all kinds of colors. You'll see blues and reds and oranges. So it's really fun when you start painting all those different colors in nature, instead of just blue and green, you know, blue sky, green grass. I mean, that's okay, there's nothing wrong with it, but it just is a little more interesting when you get all those different colors that are out there in nature. Okay. All right, so there is the start of our grass. And what I'm gonna do now, you can make your tractor any color you like. I'm gonna make mine red because red is my favorite color and I just wanna do red. And red and green are actually what's called complementary colors. So what that means is they look really good next to each other on, you know, anything, on a painting, on a clothing, whatever it is. So I'm gonna do mine red. So again, and you can see I'm kind of doing a little wiggle with my brush here to get the water and the paint where I want it to go. Oops, it's orange. And I'm going around. I'm gonna have, the fenders are gonna be a different color. So I'm gonna go around those. And like I said, this is the color that I'm choosing, but you can choose any color that you want that's in your paint box. I just really like red. So I keep grabbing more and more of my paint and more of my water. Okay, so now, oh, I think I missed something up here. I might have to go back and fill something in. And if your paper gets too wet at some point, you could always take a break and let it dry a few minutes and come back to it. Because sometimes that can happen. If it gets too wet and the paint isn't staying where you want it to stay, you can always take a break. So I'm just filling in my tractor color, but I'm leaving out the areas that I'm going to put other colors. So I'm not painting that fender. I'm gonna leave the wheel because the wheel's gonna be a dark, probably black-ish color. But if you get a little paint, like I got a little paint in the fender there, it's not the end of the world. Because sometimes, like I said, this paint is a little unpredictable and sometimes it just kind of takes off on you. So just have fun with it. And don't beat yourself up if you think you made a mistake, because you know what? For starters, we all make mistakes. And a lot of times when I make a mistake in my artwork, it turns out to be the best part of that artwork. So sometimes making a mistake is, you know, we call them happy mistakes. You know, you make a mistake and it turns out to be a really good thing. So don't beat yourself up if you make a mistake. It's also part of learning. You know, when you paint a lot and, you know, paint over and over and over for a really long time, you'll get better at it. But if this is something you really haven't done too much, you can't expect it to be perfect. So you don't want to beat yourself up. You want to just have fun with it. And I may go back and fix some of these things here. But what I see that I missed before was a little bit of the background up here. So in this part of the tractor, there's a little bit of sky showing through the front window, and I missed it. I'm getting paint on my arm, but that's what I do. Oh, and you know what else I did? I just made a mistake. I put blue there, and that's supposed to be the green. So you see, I just took a little paper towel and got that right up. So this is supposed to be the green from the grass. Okay, so we're gonna let that go a minute. Okay, so now I'm going to go and I'm gonna grab some, I want some yellow, but I want it to be kind of orangey. So I'm gonna mix the yellow and the orange and get a lighter orange. Let's see how that looks. Because I want a different color for my fenders and all these things. So I'm just kind of putting all that in there. And there's another one over here. And then this is one on the other side. We can't see the whole thing, but we can see part of it. Okay. And then, okay, I can get some of that orange off of there now. Now I want a little bit of this yellow. I'm gonna make these lights up here yellow. And, okay. So now, I want a little bit of a darker red for some of the shadowy areas. Now, the way you darken red is by using its complement. So I mixed a little bit of red and green together, and I got this kind of darker color here. So I'm going to use that for, this is, oh, now see my paint is bleeding a little bit there. I might have to wait. Let me get back to that part. So, there's a darker area down here, kind of a shadowy area underneath here. And let's see, this is showing is a little bit darker. And if it's too, move it back over, you can always add more red to it. So this piece is kind of on the inside, it's in a little bit of shadow, so I'm just going to add a little bit of that darker color to it. Okay, and then this piece, if I can get in there without the paint bleeding, is darker because it's on the inside and it's in some shadow. And then this is on the inside, so it's a little darker. So how we make things sometimes look realistic or three-dimensional is by adding things like shadows. So, when this is all done and dry, hopefully you'll understand what I'm talking about. So these are like vents or something on the side of the engine. I'm sure that there are kids out there that know exactly what this stuff is called, but I'm not that good. Okay, so now I'm gonna take a little bit of the blue and a pinch of the black and make kind of a bluish gray. And I'm gonna use that. Oh, that's really dark. Need a little more blue. That black goes a long way. Don't need much. Okay, so I want a kind of a bluish gray over here to do these lights. Again, it just makes it a little more interesting than using just gray. Hopefully while we bounce around and paint these different parts, we can come back and the other parts will be dry and ready for us to work on again. So now, taking that kind of bluish gray and I'm doing the steering wheel. darker red on the inside of here too. And if you don't want to do these darker parts, you don't have to. You can just do them all one color. If it's too difficult for you, if it's, you know, you can just do them any old which way you want because it's your painting. I always tell people that, even adults that take classes with me, that I already paint like me. You don't need to paint like me, you need to paint like you. So just do that and have fun. Okay, I'm going to make the seat back this brown color. Okay, we'll get that brown in there. Oh, you know what I forgot about? Forgot about this smoke thing, whatever this thing is. I'm sorry I'm not up on my tractor parts. I know there are a bunch of little boys out there going right, yelling at the video right now because I don't know. So this is that bluish gray color that I'm using for this, and I'm going to use it for the steering column, and I'm going to use it for these hinges for the door. Okay, and then we're going to use some gray, just gray down here. So when you're using black and you want it to look more like gray, use a lot of water. So I used a lot of water and I made that look more like gray because I want the inside to be more like black. You want to have some contrast there. And now we are going to do the tires. So I'm using black for the tires, but with a lot of water. And there's some more of this darker black under here where the other tire's kind of peeking out. And then I'm going to go back to this kind of bluish gray color for in here. But some of this I'm going to make black. I'm just going to go over the whole thing with the gray because we can make it darker, we just can't make it lighter. And then I'm going to go back with the black and go in the center of the tire, and then these parts of the tire here, and then I would like a lighter kind of gray on the outside of the tire. And like I said, if it's too hard for you to do these shades and stuff, don't sweat it. Just have fun and do what you want to do. It's not the end of the world. You just want to have fun with it. That's the most important thing, is to always have fun and not, you know, beat yourself up. So now I'm going to see in the tire, the back tire has those big ripples in it kind of that make it, you know, be able to move in that wet dirt when they're farming. So we want to make sure we keep those kind of, see how I'm kind of wiggling my brush here to get these big tractor wheels. And you could always go back and add some more later, make it darker if you like. You can always make things darker in watercolors, but you can't make them lighter. And very often what artists use to make, you know, for lighter colors in watercolors, especially if they want white, is they use the white of the paper. Okay, that might be a little too blue. I want that kind of bluish gray again. And again, I'm just going to bring this down because it's easier, and then we can go back in and put the black where we want it, because you can always go darker. Just can't go lighter. And remember, if your paper is very wet, it may, your colors may bleed together a little bit. You know, see, I might have this too wet here. I might have to wait. I may have to jump around. Let's see. You see how when you put the paint down, when it starts to kind of feather out like that, there's a lot of water, and it may do some unexpected things. It may do some fun things too. You just never know. Sometimes it does something fun. Sometimes it does something you don't really like. Now you can always go in and kind of take up some of that water. And then put this back there. So, like I said, I can go in here with my paper towel and take a little bit of this out if I like, if I want. Or I don't have to do that. Could just leave it the way it is and just have fun with it. See, it's going into my tire a little bit, but the tire is pretty dark, so that's really not too bad of a problem. And then, like I said, when it gets dry, if you go back over it, you can make things darker. You can just do another coat of the paint and make things darker. And if you need them to be, you know, if you want the tires really black. Wiggle that brush. Wiggle it. All right, I'm gonna let that dry a little bit. And I think I'm gonna go back over here and I'm gonna put another coat on this tire and make it a little bit darker. And I still have some water over here too, so I have to be careful. Okay. And whoop, let's drop my brush. We can go back in now. I've got like a little water thing here. I could go back in and add some color, more color to my tractor if I want. So here's where you can sort of fine tune your painting. You can go back in, like I said, I've got some of those watery things that can be fun, and sometimes you don't, sometimes you want them, sometimes you don't. So I'm just going in here and I'm giving another coat to make my red stand out a little bit more. So I'm just having some fun here. Oop, I went over my orange a little bit. Take that back out. And I can go back to my orange and bring a little bit more of that orange in here, since I lost a little bit of it. Okay, and then this can be have some darker. So I'm just gonna go in there. Now, at this point, if you have paint everywhere, your painting can be done. You can be done. You don't have to do anything else. I'm going to add some more things just because it's fun. So I can add, let's see, I can add some brown back here, maybe to the base of these trees, to, you know, because trees have, generally have, you know, bark on there. So we can add some brown into that green. And this is my tree that took off before. So I liked it before, but I would like it to have maybe a little bit more shape now. So I'm gonna go in and just kind of make it a little bit bigger and make it a little more tree-like. So I just made it bigger, not a big deal. You can make some of your other little things bigger if you like, or you can leave them the way they are. Like I said, you can most certainly be finished now. I'm just showing you some things that you can do if you wanted to keep painting and if you wanted to add some other colors in there. Now the brown, again, we can take the green and put a little bit of a darker green underneath our tires. So I mixed it with the brown, which is kind of like mixing it with red because that's a reddish brown. Remember the complements, when you mix complements together. So I'm gonna put a little shadow underneath our tractor because there would be one under here. So I'm just putting a little darker shadow. And then like spots, like I said, that I missed a little bit here, I can fill in now. So see, I've got a little bit of a dark shadow underneath my tractor, and it can kind of blend right into my other grass because this is where there's no shadow. So I see here where I got a little bit of, I probably had a little too much water, so you can go back and tighten up some of these areas if you like. But have fun with it, you know, be interested in what the paint does and what the water helps it to do. Like, you know, think of it like an experiment and just have fun. I'm gonna make these, let's see, I'm gonna make these a little darker, I think, these vents. Okay, and I can still go in and move some of this around by just adding more water. So I'm just kind of going over that. The bottom of the tractor would be a little more in shadow, so I'm just going over that area. And see, it's bleeding, did a little bit of bleeding here, but I kind of like the way it looks. But you can go around and touch it up if you like. We can take some of that kind of greenish brown and we can add some, you know, there's some shadows and stuff in the grass itself, so we can add some little things in here to make it a little interesting, so it's not all one color. And you can always go back in and sort of, you know, going back in with the yellow, and you can kind of soften that up a little bit. But it just makes it interesting, more interesting to look at, to have some other colors in there. So I'm just kind of doing some zigzags, you know, nothing crazy, just having fun with it. And like I said, I can go back with some of my yellow and soften it. I got a little spot here. So it's up to you when your painting's done. You could keep working on it. You could make all kinds of fun changes to it. You know, I can go around this again because I got some of that lost. It's your painting, so when you want it to be done, it's done. I'm just taking some of the darker black and going around these wheels a little bit, just to pop them out. And there is actually it's hard to see, I bet, in this video, but there's a door here. So I'm just going to lightly show you where the door is. And I'm going to go over the hinges and the door handle again. And if you wanted to, you could go around and put, you know, do some kind of shadows on the fenders, maybe. Have a little, you know, you could just go and go and go however you want, but you just don't want to lose your tractor. That's the main thing. You want to be able to see your artwork. And then if I want to soften that black line, I can just go in with some more red. So I am going to call this done. And I hope that you had fun with it. I hope that you learned something. I mean, let's see, we learned that watercolors use a lot of water, much more water than paint. We learned that red and green are complementary colors, which means they look really nice next to each other in a painting or clothing, material, anything. And we learned that you can darken green with red and you can darken red with green. So you can make your complementary colors darker by using them together. So that is something else that we learned. So maybe the next painting will have different complementary colors in it that you can learn about. But, and then we learned that, you know, if you want to take off some paint, you can just dab it while it's wet, and that will give you an interesting texture. So you can, you know, we made some clouds up there by doing this, and now we can make some of the leaves in the trees look a little different. And the last thing I think I want to do is I'm going to go over these lights one more time with some more yellow because they got kind of lost. But that's pretty much it, guys. This is our painting. So I hope you had fun, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a beautiful painting for your family to enjoy. I see I got this moved. So I will talk to you soon. Bye.